Yo, 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 yo. What is up, everybody? Project Itachi here. Welcome back to the Afterthoughts After Dark. Now, I know it's been a while since we've done another. Yuli is trying so hard not to laugh.
Itachi's so nervous right now.
Dude, I start every episode nervous. Does nobody know this? Every episode I start, I'm nervous.
He's extra nervous this time because this is a topic he likes. That's why he's hosting today.
So, okay. A little background. Before we even get in the show, just throws me under the bus. So a little backstory.
Let's just retry the intro and just like.
We just gonna roll with it. We just gonna roll with it.
He was so nervous. I'm like, oh, look at it.
Okay, because this is an episode that's gonna really throw me out there, and like
not like we haven't thrown you out there like the last 3 years.
There is a
but I've been able to like circumvent it. I've been able to circumvent it, but we do have a special guest joining us this week. And she is a very popular foot model on Instagram. So now everyone listening knows where this is going. So I do want to say a huge round of applause and welcome to the one and only Momma Goodz. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
So a little bit of backstory. I actually connected with Momma Goodz through her husband, Daddy Goodz, who's not able to join us this week, but huge shout out to him for connecting with me and speaking with me over the past couple of weeks as we planned the episode and came up with this plan. So how the conversation went, he had put up a post about connecting with other content creators. And I was doing my IG thing, and because I'm in the podcast category, it came across, and I saw this podcast called POF. First thought I had was, Plenty of Fish has a podcast?
Yep. That would be a terrible, terrible podcast. That would have to be the podcast of all the nightmares that happen.
I was like, how does that work? But then I saw the name of it, and I saw it said Plenty of Feet Podcast. And I'm not going to lie, me personally, that already caught my interest. I'm like, okay, I must be misunderstanding this, but let me poke in and see what this is about. And I went on and I looked, and it was exactly what I thought it was. It was a podcast that was basically communicating with the models in the foot modeling industry from IG and all walks of life. And it wasn't just your generic, hey, put your feet up and let me see your, no, like this was in-depth conversations, getting to see that these models, they're real people, you know, they're literally from all walks of life and all different educational backgrounds. And the conversations are really good. You get pulled into the conversation and you don't remember like it's a Plenty of Feet podcast until it's like the foot commercials start. Yeah. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. This is what it's about. And when I saw this post about connecting with content creators, something told me it was like, reach out. And as my friends know here, because that's why they're teasing me about being nervous. I always play, Yuli definitely mainly. I always played my love of the female foot close to the chest because there is still such a stigma around it. And I've always felt like it was an unfair stigma, especially with like all the different things that, you know, are on, out there and even on IG, and seeing that Momma Goodz and Daddy Goodz came together and created this podcast that just basically, in my opinion, breaks that barrier down and has such an amazing community. I was like, no, I gotta talk to you guys. I gotta see like how you created this, like how you came together, what started it, how did you get introduced to it, and so I guess we could start there. Like, how did the Plenty of Feet podcast come to be?
Well, originally my husband Daddy Goodz had another podcast with a really good friend, and they stumbled into the foot community by accident. You know, they did an episode where she had her feet out. People loved it. but everyone loved it, which was great. But she didn't want to do it anymore. And he really connected with the community. He was like, this is something I want to continue to do. What do you think? And I was like, yeah, why would you not want to do it? Like, go ahead, push forward. You're breaking these barriers down to where you can, like, we have the tools to normalize it. So he was like, okay, I'm going to create it. What should I name it? And we're just chilling in the car, and I'm like, what about Plenty of Feet? He's all, huh? Like Plenty of Fish? I was like, yeah, Plenty of Feet. He's like, I'll think about it. And then Plenty of Feet podcast. I was on his first episode, helping him open those doors. And since then, it's been a lot of fun. Originally, I was not a foot model. It was, I created an Instagram as Momma Goodz because of the fans. I was like, oh, I want them to be able to connect with me, get to know who I am. And after a while, they were like, why don't you have, an OF for yourself? Like, I was like, that's not a bad idea. And then from there, it just blew up. You guys, and I really haven't even been pushing Instagram hard. I've had it since January, and I really started like pumping foot content in June.
So like January of this year? That is amazing growth. That is amazing. And it just shows that there's so many people out there that can relate, and they're, and I'm pretty sure some of your followers, they're not all just foot lovers, but probably you get followed by other models and connecting with other content creators and such. So from your experience, because the typical stigma is, the foot community is creepy and it's always this bad stuff. But from what has your personal experience been since you've done your foot page?
For me, it hasn't been bad at all. Everyone knows who my husband is. So a lot of my followers came from Plenty of Feet podcast. So I think there's that level of respect that they have for me, that they don't cross that line. Like, they'll ask me, like, are you okay with doing this type of a custom for me? I don't want it to be uncomfortable for you. And I love that. I appreciate that. That's like big. I'm like, thank you so much for considering how I feel. Because, there are some who are, I have had, a few people that are pretty nasty, and I'm like, dude, I'm just blocking you, because you don't talk to a woman of whatever her job is or whatever she's doing. You just don't disrespect a woman like that. So I have come, across a few odd balls, but, it happens. But I mean, it's been, but it's been pretty chill for the most part. Since I have had a lot of followers lately, like a lot of new followers, they don't know about the POF pod, the Plenty of Feet pod. So I tell them, they're like, oh, are you married? I'm like, actually, I am. I'm married to the creator and host of POF pod. And they're like, what's that? I was like, it's an amazing podcast. You should check it out. On YouTube.
Yeah. And you guys, you pretty much live stream the podcast most of the time, I seem. So it's like, you get to go in and you get to see the podcast as it's happening. And so it's really, really laid back, and the conversations have been deep. I remember one episode where they were talking about particle collisions. And that completely caught me off guard. I was just like, am I in the right podcast? But that's what I'm saying. It gives obviously your audience what they want, and at the same time it gives engaging conversation, because you go through the comments and you see people partaking in the actual conversation. And I'm like, this is one thing I've always said, like, I feel like it's an unfair stigma on the foot community that, we're not normal people. And I could never figure out, being in that community myself, why it's gotten such a harsh stigma. And this is a conversation we were having a little earlier before the show started. So from your personal opinion, why do you feel there's such a big stigma against the foot community, despite there being such an obviously large demand for it and successful, lucrative business of it on Instagram? I mean,
for some reason, somewhere along the line in history, feet became taboo. It's like, why would you want to look at a woman's foot or a man's foot? Like, what is sexy about it? There's a long history of feet actually being the most sexual part of a woman's body. And I feel like these days people, they're just kind of like, that's just gross. why would I like maybe they're not comfortable with their own feet. That can be it. Like at first, you guys, I didn't like my feet. I was like, who wants to look at these things? And then the more I'm like, oh, you know what? They're actually kind of nice. But I feel like it's that thing, like feet are gross. You know, we think like, ew, feet are nasty. Like, don't touch my feet, or I'm ticklish. Don't touch them. And I feel like a lot of people are like, why are you even talking about feet? Like, that's just something that isn't normalized anymore. Like it used to be, it isn't now. So anytime you mention some type of like a fetish that you have, it's like, whoa, you have a what? You're into what? No, like you get judged right away. And it's based off of what other people opinions are. So that's why it makes a lot of people like, I don't even want to tell my family that I like feet, or tell a woman that I'm dating right now that I like feet. What if she tells me, ew, no, like you weirdo. Like that, it's not cool, because they feel like what they've heard around them is like just negativity. Like you can't have a fetish. You have to be just.
But
plain.
You're allowed to have a fetish. You're just not allowed to have that fetish. I feel like that is the conversation we're not having, because you can be into BDSM, you can be into getting choked, you can be into anal, you can be into this, you can be into that, and that's okay. Like R. Kelly golden showers. We're gonna talk about that real quick. But feet, that's where we're gonna draw the line and be like, no, you're a terrible human being because you like feet. When most of the guys, in my experience, if it comes to feet, they're not rude about it. They're not like, bro, let me see them feet though. As compared to like, let me see those boobs though. You know what I mean? Like there's a different kind of gentlemanly respect. There's always going to be creeps in every community. I'm not going to lie. But it seems to be that there's a higher respect when it comes to people asking for feet because of the stigma versus, hey, I'd love to choke you, and I'd love to do this, and I'd love to do that. Call me daddy. And it's just like, no, you're not even a real dom. So, like, let's have that conversation. Take a step back. Let's really figure out who's the dominating one and who's the sub one real quick.
I also just want to say, all respect to you, Daddy Goods. We love your name.
Oh, my gosh.
You don't have to change your name. But no, Harley, you bring up a very valid point. And this is another reason I kind of wanted to take that step forward and come out of my own shell and have this episode, because what you said is exactly it, especially in my regard, because it has caused like relationship problems for me in the past, because it's a part of who I am. And a lot of people like to think like, oh, well, that's something you can just change. And I'm like, no, it really isn't. I can lie to myself, but then I'm lying to you, and it's going to come out eventually down the line. Yeah. And it's going to be worse the longer I wait. And I'm not a young man anymore. So I don't have the patience to like drag these things out. So I'm usually upfront, and I'm not upfront in like a weird way, like, oh yeah, I like fight. No, it's like, hey,
I know.
I don't know.
Fight, not feet, though.
Fight.
I like fight. Yeah,
I like
punch
fight.
you in the face.
I like the fight.
Yeah.
There's one
baseball
for
player got canceled for that. He got taken out.
Yeah.
But I usually try to mention it sooner than later, because I like for them to have that option to think it over. Like, this is what you're getting to. And for me personally, it's my oddest quirk. And it's like, look, I'm bringing this to the table right now up front, so it's not a surprise later. Because we could click, we could be perfect harmony, except I didn't bring that up, and that's something you hate. And I actually recently had that experience with someone I was supposed to go on a date. And, I asked her, I said, well, what are you looking for in a person? What are your expectations? And she said she wanted someone that was open-minded. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely open-minded. I'm the last person to judge someone on their tastes. I may not agree with all the tastes, but I'm not going to judge you for it. Hey, you do you, because I do me. And I asked her, I said, well, why? Like, and she said, well, because some of the things I'm into, other people find weird. That's me to a T. I'm like, great. because that's exactly the reason I need someone that's open-minded. So I said, how about this? We put the stuff on the table and we see if we can work together. I said, in good faith, I'll go first. So I told her, I'm like, look, I've got a foot fetish. It's my oddest thing. And I get, if you don't vibe with it. However, her response was not what I expected, because her response was basically like, oh, that is not my thing. I thought open-minded was on the so was it open-minded one way, like I was supposed to be open-minded, and it just kind of killed things from there. And I was just like, okay, not the reaction I was expecting. It's not my first time dealing with it. I had an ex who like hated it, and the thing is, like, for me, what a lot of people don't also realize about it, they just think like it's a bunch of guys creeping on the internet, but there's also an intimate level with it. And I always try to, when I do talk with ladies who like mention like, oh, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, you're one thing I feel guys that are into it will give you is they literally will love you from head to toe.
They will. They cherish you.
They will love you literally from head to toe. But it's true. And I don't know. I guess people just don't understand it. But like that reaction just like reminded me of the whole reason I played it close to the chest. It's like the world is so closed-minded. Like if I had come in and said I like the general things that we glorify, like, oh, I like your ass, I like it would have been A-okay. And I'm like, how do we change that? Like when did someone somewhere in history go and declare feet are wrong?
It might have been
and everyone just was like, okay. I guess. I know in some cultures it's offensive, but
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
but I don't know. Like it's just it's something that's always bothered me.
It's just
and
culture.
Like, now I'm kind of like going back into my shell about it because of that most literally recent
that's
experience.
tough. But I mean, kudos to you for telling her out the gate, because it would be horrible for you to waste so much vested time into someone for them to be like, yeah, I'm not with that. And especially for men that truly that's a big thing for them. Like if you can't find someone that's down, like what's the point of really even wasting time with them? Because you're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy because you're not happy. But getting back to like, how do we change it? I feel like a woman has to come into it with an open mind, like maybe make her feel sexy. Like, let me take some photos of you. I swear it'll be on your phone. It's your content, your stuff, but I want you to see your feet and you the way I see you. That might help, because there's a lot of women out there that are just like, hey, I was the same way. Like my feet, what? They're not attractive. What are you talking about? I put socks on these bad boys to hide them. But if, maybe we show them like, it's okay. You don't have to hide your feet. Like embrace them. It might open up a whole nother door.
So to any guys that are listening and are, taking their own little notes, what would be a proper approach if they wanted to do that? Like a non-awkward
So
approach.
I would just say, like, maybe you're at dinner with the person that you're dating and just be like, hey, I do want to let you know, I find feet very attractive. And I find your feet extremely attractive, not on some weird level. Like I'm just being open-hearted and honest with you. See where that conversation goes. Like if she's like super against it, try to steer her like back in, like, hey, I totally get it if you're not okay with it, but let's try to be open-minded with it, and I don't know, see where it goes from there. I haven't experienced that because Daddy Goodz likes my feet. and I like my feet. I'm okay with it. But
How do you help convince a girl like not think that her feet are just hooves?
I know, right? Like it's
Like
because
if
a
she,
lot of
It's a body
if she-
negativity
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
it's a lot of body negativity. Like they might have grown up with their family telling them like, yeah, you got big old toes, like they look like fingers. Like can you make them feel bad? Like I'm Mexican. In my culture, we're always freaking pinpointing, oh, if you're chunky,
You
hey
can't.
gorda.
You,
And I'm like,
yeah, you
huh?
can't go to a party without being someone we can call the name or something.
Exactly. Some type of name where they're
Did
like,
you gain 5 more pounds?
yeah,
No,
oh,
Tito, I did
you
not.
pregnant?
Or
What?
it's worse. It's a subtle thing. They'll be like, "Oye, gordo," or "Oye, flaquita," "Oye,
Mm-hmm.
pierta," or whatever. They'll give you a nickname that'll stick within the
Yes.
family that just pinpoints your like, what is that
To
word
the
I'm thinking
T.
about? Yeah, where like it hurts you a little bit. But that I guess
Yeah.
that I mean that makes
They
us
think
better
it's
at
nice and sweet. Like it's a cute nickname. No.
no.
But that's something I've been, trying to teach my family too about. But it goes back to that. Like, what if their family were telling them they've got some nasty looking feet and now they just want to hide them from the world and they're super self conscious and self aware of them? You kind
I
of
think
have
it's also a culture thing too, because depending on how you were taught, what you were learned to perceive, like if you're taught you have to hide your body because you're chubby, you need to always hide your stomach. You're never gonna think that your stomach is sexy. It's just never gonna be a thing. I have never met a woman in my life who was like, "Look at my stomach, isn't it sexy?" Like, no, it's never gonna happen. But like feet kind of falls into that category because like nobody comes up to you and be like, "Man, you got some nice elbows." You know what I mean?
I would say yeah, culture. But I mean, like if like Momma Goodz said back in the day, like maybe ancient Roman times and all that, feet was considered sexual because we were wearing sandals. Our feet were out there 24/7. Somewhere along the line, we invented socks, we invented shoes, so feet were more hidden, more concealed, and to a point now it's like taboo.
Yeah.
I remember reading a book in high school. I think it was required reading, but this girl was really excited. She was getting into ballet, and the ballet slippers have the ribbons on them. Well, she showed them to her grandmother, who was from China, and her grandmother started screaming at her mother, "How dare you let this do this to her? Why would you let her do this?" And like cuts the ribbons off her shoes. And she's crying because she's like, "What's wrong with ballet?" In China, for years, they used to wrap their feet with ribbons to keep them from growing because you were considered ugly. If you
Oh
had
yeah,
big
the
feet.
binding.
Yeah.
You were considered unmeritable.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
had big feet.
They binded their feet, which, from what I read in history, it was up like ancient Greeks and Romans. They cherished feet. Women's boobs were out, men's were out. But the feet, they were always covered by a long dress because those were the most sexualized parts of their body. And for some reason, down that road, it became like, no, don't look at the feet, don't touch the feet. It's not cool.
There's still kind of a thing today in like Middle Eastern countries where they still wear that long, I don't know what it's called, those long black things, robes. There's a specific name for it.
Starts with a
But
B.
yeah, I can't think of it
Yeah,
either.
I
But I
can't think of it
remember there
either.
being a Key and Peele skit where they were making fun of that. Like, did you see the ankles on her? Like they were making fun. It was a joke, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I guess if you see something so often, it becomes normal. But something you don't see often, it kind of like there's a little mystery, a little bit of romanticizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait,
Absolutely.
there's way too many things because it depends on the culture. So I'm not going to go into what it's called.
Yeah, so they know what I'm talking about. I hope I'm not offending anybody.
But no, yeah, like that. Those are all really really good points, especially the parts about the culture and how everything is perceived. And it's funny because like we were talking about like the the reactions that everyone has and all that, and it's funny because on the flip side of all of this, with the stigma, and this is the kind of the part of the community that does bother me about it. There are the models or the support or whoever that I feel you have to have some love for what you're doing and understanding of the community. But on the flip side, there are those who probably have like no love, but they're making a killing because, you know, they're using the
They've
high
seen it on
demand
TikTok.
for it.
Oh, you can
on-
sell your feet pics for blah 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 and buy a Range Rover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sell socks. I remember that
Yeah,
being a huge
and-
thing.
I remember having a few servers
Right
that
before
did that.
COVID, they were making a big deal about, yo, I can sell my socks and for like $100, $500, $5,000, and I just mail it to this guy after wearing them for
Who
a day.
the fuck is buying one pair of socks for $5,000?
Bro,
Who wore them?
It's its own warped way of supply and demand because it's so taboo. It's kind of like something you like taken away. Think of your favorite hobby, your favorite drink, and then tomorrow you're told you can no longer have this.
the more you want
The
it.
more you can't have it, the more you're going to want it, the more extreme your taste for it is going to become. It's like smokers when they stop cold turkey.
Well,
the desire to smoke becomes
But the demand, but the supply
insatiable.
is not low right now. So why are we still going to pay that
It
much?
is when you think about how it's so hard to find a supplier.
because you have to think. And Momma Goodz, let me know if this applies to you. The more popular you are, the more
correct.
requests you receive.
Yep, and you can
And
only
you're only
wear
one
one pair
woman.
of socks for 3 days for so long. You know, I get requests from like 5 or 10 people, and I'm like, dang, like that's like a whole month's worth of you're gonna have to wait until, you know, you're the next in line, and hey, they might go to the next person that they find just as interesting. So yeah, that's a tough one. But $5,000, that's a bit extreme. Like, did she wear them for 6 months straight or what?
I
Did
don't
she
remember.
work
It
out
was
in
some lady.
them? Did she go swimming in them? Like, there's got to be something about them. Gold plated.
I don't know. Gold-plated socks.
And the other side of it is like, you know, society, it's a running joke in society too, like movies and stuff poke fun at it. And it becomes like the ha that's those weirdos in movies and stuff, which by the way, bless Quentin Tarantino.
I did not notice that until
not
someone
giving a
told me
shit.
it recently. Like, Tarantino has a foot fetish. We see feet. I'm like, oh, I thought those were just some weird scenes he does.
Because he does it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you see it,
After
you
you know
think
the
about it,
knowledge.
and then you just move on.
After
because
the
the movie's
knowledge,
so
I'm like,
good.
Everything.
The Uma Thurman is just in the truck going, wiggle your big toe. I'm like, oh my God. I thought that
It
was
all
just
makes
for her
sense
to
now.
regain movement on her feet. But no, Quentin Tarantino just wanted her to do that.
The man's a genius.
But I think movies and
Man is a
all that-
genius. And that's the other thing. It's like I also feel that but in his case, because he's made himself iconic,
Just like R. Kelly.
he's allowed
Is
a
it really?
pass
We
with
make
that.
fun of him. Well, R. Kelly's in jail now.
He's allowed a pass.
Yeah, but that's because he
Um,
did something else.
Well, yeah. But look how long that took.
Still counts.
Yeah.
I
So
just had sex.
Whoa.
oh my goodness. So Momma Goodz, the process that you guys go through for your Plenty of Feet,
By the way,
do
congrats
you
on 1 year.
guys just kind of like
Yeah.
Thank you.
find
Thank you.
Congrats on 1 year.
yes,
Like-
congratulations on that. And extremely popular, which by the way, guys, if you go to YouTube, type in Plenty of Feet podcast.
There'll be links in the
Subscribe.
description down below as
I'm
well.
dead serious. Even if you're not into it, the conversations are really good.
Yes, you wouldn't
Conversations
imagine.
are extremely
Like,
good.
you could listen to it like on an audio version, and then it's totally like you're like, what? How are feet even in the mix? Like, how do these conversations go hand in hand? Or foot-
Yeah.
They were talking about physics.
Which I got to say, I love the way you guys film
course you do.
the lives, because it's like the best of both worlds. You get a great conversation. Hey. I'm just like, man, I wish I could have like thought of that. That is amazing. So huge props to you guys on the way you guys execute the show.
That's all Daddy Goodz right
chef's
there with
kiss
his
right there.
genius mind
Um,
working. I'm just like,
you
yeah,
think
I came up with the name.
Hey,
You think
You're
you
still
touch it,
there.
like holds a piece of paper to like half the screen, but like just don't put that there.
No, I had called him. I was
And
like,
just
you
put
know,
this
how do
right
I
there.
airdrop this link to the computer?
All right.
And then he like told me, and he's like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. Bye. And he's like, wait. I was like, all right, bye. And I hung up on him. I don't know what he was gonna say.
But how do you guys go about your guests? Because you guys have been rolling out. You guys have guests every week, and I know Instagram is not for, you know, it's tons and tons and tons of models out there, but the ones you guys find, they're like, in my opinion, the cream of the crop.
Yes.
You know, they're level-headed, they're educated, and with so many out there, how do you guys find your
they end up
guests?
just coming across the podcast or the Instagram page, and they'll reach out to Daddy Goods like, hey, how do I get on this podcast? Or if he really is like, dang, I really like this model, I think she would be really great, he'll reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm Daddy Goods from the Plenty of Feet podcast. I would love for you to check out the content. And if it's anything like in the realm of what you would like to do, let me know, because I want you to be a part of the podcast, you know, to come on as a guest on there. And so, you know, sometimes he'll get some no's, he'll get some, well, how much are you going to pay me? And it's like, huh? And he's like, you guys, like, this is a me and a you thing. Like, we both get benefit out of it just on its own, you know? So he's like, I'm not going to pay you, but okay, it may be in the future. Yeah. But yeah.
Is it easier that you're a model?
Maybe down the road.
Like, you have that model to model connection, like, you can reach out and they'll probably feel a little bit more comfortable with you since you're a model as well.
I haven't had anyone actually reach out to me. The models that I do follow on Instagram, I've met through the podcast. Like, I met them in LA shooting a podcast and whatnot, or they'll come to our house to shoot the podcast. That's how I meet them. But I haven't had anyone, you know, let me know if you do though. And a thing might be my DMs are closed because of how large of a following I now have. I had to close that down.
Oh, man.
Your phone probably was dinging
and I was like, okay, I'm closing this down. Sorry.
Every day.
Like, reach me another way.
I like how you mentioned the responses, because I was wondering, I said, you know, this is a brave venture you both are undertaking. And I said, man, does he actually like ever get a no? And then when you mentioned, you know, he gets no's and then he gets the, well, how much you're going to pay me? And I'm like, see, that part right there is the stigma as a person of the community that I can't stand, because there's a price tag attached to it now. And yeah. And I'm like, look, you know, if you've made it your business, full respect. I'm not saying, you know, if you're good at something, yeah, you should get paid for it. But it seems like that's the case even now, even off the scene. It's like they don't want anything to do with you as a person in it unless there's a price tag attached to it.
Red flags right there. Like, no, that's not cool. Like, you guys, I didn't jump into foot modeling because I was like, oh, I'm going to make so much money. I did it because people were asking me, like, you should make an OnlyFans. Like, you should put your content out there. And I'm like, okay, I'm here for you guys. Like, if you want to admire my feet, I'm okay with that. And that's how that came about. There wasn't any like money. How a lot of people are out there, and just no. It's tough.
So I had a couple of friends. I told them I was doing this show, and they asked me, they were like, oh, well, you know, I thought about getting into that. So I said, okay. So they wanted to know what they should do to start their own page. I personally feel that they should have some love for the craft before they step into it. No pun intended.
That's so bad. It's hard.
That they should have some love for the craft.
I was going to react.
Sorry.
It's only bad if you don't know the extent of what people can do.
I wasn't even expecting it, but then you said no pun intended, and I was like, what are you, man?
You got to think outside the box, not the basic stuff. It's only bad if you think of the basic. Leave me alone. Anyway, the basic stuff. It was a terrible pun. Further down, not so bad. But what advice would you give to someone that wants to get into?
I would
foot modeling
recommend
realm.
following other foot models on Instagram, checking out the type of content they do. It's a craft. It's not just let me snap some photos. Like, you actually have to really spend some time to do that. If you're willing to put in the footwork, yeah. If you're willing to put in
Yeah, she
See?
gets away with it, not you.
She gets away with it.
She's also cuter, so.
Okay. Oh,
oh man,
we're not
you gotta
wrong.
put in the work. You know, you want to do your research on it, because the last thing you want to do is jump into it and then you're like, this is a little too much for me. And then you wasted time creating all of these pages and trying to make connections with people. Definitely do your research. Check out some of the history of this fetish. Check out some of the really established models. Check out new incoming models as well. Create your Instagram, create a TikTok, create a Twitter, create an OF. You can have 2 OF pages. You could have a free one and you can have a paid for subscribers one. I personally don't do the free one because I have another job too. So that's just a lot for me to juggle. But as long as you create those platforms for yourself, I've even heard of models that do, they have Reddit accounts as well. So apparently that works. But you're going to have to put in a lot of time to be posting on each platform. Just know that it's not easy and you're going to have to put in some work in there. So, but it pays off by, the messages you get after they've received a custom or they see what you're posting on your OF wall. The gratitude, when the gratitude is there, like, thank you, I love that. Like, thank you. Because now it was worth it for me. Like, as long as I can make someone smile, I can change someone's day. Because it really does change a person's day as long as they're able to see something that really lights them up inside. They could be having a horrible day at work and boom, they see like an Instagram story that I post and they're like, you just made my day. You just cheered me up. I'm happy I could do that for you. So as long as a woman goes into it or a man goes into it, just know there's going to be some work to be done, but it'll be fun. Yeah, you have to have fun with it too. Like, don't work. Yeah, it's not really work, but just have fun with it.
Yeah.
What are some pros? Oh, go ahead, Adachi.
Yeah. I'm glad you said about the. Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought up the part about making someone's day, because that's what I've told people before, and they've asked me, they've just been curious. They're like, well, why do you like the pictures? And I'm just like, for me, like, getting a custom is just like someone took the time out of their day to send me that. It made my day. Like, it's not like I'm like now gonna get over extra. It's just like I had a crappy day. I might have sometimes forgot I put in a request, and then boom, it's like, hey, your request is done.
How many requests did you put in?
Now I'm in a better mood because
like, if you put in so much that you forget about it, how many do you put in?
No, like, you put it in and you go on with your life
for that custom to be created just for that person.
Yeah, especially depending on how popular they are and how many, and like the detail of the request. Even if it's something simple, sometimes they might move it up. But if you got to think, you got the high ballers out there that are like, hey, I'll drop $500 for this. They're going to prioritize. So you put it in and you go on about your day, and then they're like, hey, it's ready. And for me, yeah, it's literally a bright spot in the day, because that's I don't have that personal relationship to enjoy that. So not yet. Still working. Hopefully one day.
I know Daddy Goodz had a different take on, how do I come up to a woman about it? He thinks, you should be dating for a while and then let the person know. I prefer the upfront approach where you're just like straight up like, hey, I want to let you know that I have a thing for feet, and if it's an issue for you, then I understand.
The last thing you want is to have a built relationship and you guys are going good. You guys are solid. You guys connect on fucking everything. You guys have been going 6 months to a year. And then this is what's going to be breaking you. And sometimes it's, just their beliefs, or they're not comfortable with it and they don't know how to become comfortable with it.
Yes.
And that's like the worst thing ever, is because not saying you wasted that time, but you can't get that time back. And neither one of you can.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, well, why did you hide this from me for so long? And at the same time, it's just like, well, why are you walking away from me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a betrayal
It's
on
easier
both
for me to
sides.
say it than for it to actually, be done.
And I know you guys talked about that, something similar on one of your episodes. A college student wrote into Daddy Goods asking, about on the campus, how he could approach the women about it. And he basically said that oh, connect. And that's honestly how I used to live. I was like, all right, maybe when they see that, I'm me and that doesn't define me, that's just a part of me, then things will work. And usually no, that I think I've had maybe two experiences where it was like, cool, let's throw it in the mix and see how it works. And it was great. Everything was fine and dandy. But for the most part, it usually does not end well, because then it's like all of a sudden everything they found attractive about you
That's true.
goes out the window. Like it doesn't even matter. And that really that goes beyond just not having your favorite thing, but that hurts you as a person, because then you start feeling like you did something wrong. Like you being you is wrong. So, and I know some people listening are probably like, man, this is getting deep. But that's the thing. Like, it's on the surface, it seems like just this kink, and there's tons of money to be made off of it. But I want to say for a lot of guys, there's an emotional connection somewhere, because they all start somewhere, and it becomes an emotional connection. Because for me, it's like, with a partner, it's an intimate thing, because being able to enjoy that, I'll tell you that I feel most foot guys are going to be loyal to death, because they probably took them forever to find someone who is just like, you know what? I welcome it. You made me feel amazing. Let's do this. Because I'm like, as soon as I find that, I'm like, I don't need to look left, right.
You are looking down.
I'm good right here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm only looking down in one direction. So, and that's the thing. It's like, because if I'm being fed, I don't need to go anywhere else looking for food. Like now you've got my undivided attention in all aspects. I'm good to go. And I guess it's just really hard to convey that to people. Like, don't let that shut you down. And I've even ran a test because, and I always bring this up, and no one's ever answered this question for me. So maybe you can answer this question for me. And everyone always kind of argues it. I said, why, if someone says they like to put their mouth on your back door, everyone's all like, yummy. But the minute a guy comes along and says, I like to suck toes, everyone's like, oh my gosh,
idea how
you're disgusting.
That got normalized before the feet. I mean,
I will let you suck my toes all day. Just don't touch my ass, okay?
Because no one can ever answer that, and they're just like,
you gotta make
well,
sure
I make sure it's all cleaned out. No.
If you're making her take a shower first before you clean,
So
before you her booty, her feet are clean, bro. Her feet are fucking clean. Sorry, I'm done. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Maybe I am weird. I've just always found that as like a weird debate. And it's like, you hear it in songs but it's funny though, because if you listen to some rappers, they even out themselves about liking feet in their raps. But everyone just like glazes over it, but they're like more focused on like, like booty like groceries. And it's like,
and the song Post, it's, Yo Chick is, come close to me. She ain't going home where she's supposed to be. There's a female artist in that song that's talking about, he can come close to me, but he better eat the booty like groceries.
wasn't it Janae Aiko?
Thank you. Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sure did with that one.
Normalized.
I love that song, except for that line.
Normalized. But no, this is something like I'm actually glad that we've had this kind of conversation because I do peruse the IG verse and there's a certain vibe. It's kind of weird, but there's a certain vibe I can get from how they post and what they post. And coming back to what you said earlier about doing the research and stuff, I can usually tell the ones that are going in and they're going in super heavy because of the money. And I can go and I can tell the ones that are going in because they appreciate the community. And when I go to the certain pages and I'm like, okay, this is way too heavy. Like they're leaning in way too hard. I'm like, yeah, you got nice ones, but yeah, your personality is just kind of like, no, I'm good. So yeah, definitely, I do say you got to have some appreciation, not just for the craft, but the community, overall. And for the love of everything, please, people, be open-minded.
I know that was
Don't
so
say
bad.
looking for open-minded and not be open-minded.
Oh.
What are some pros and cons you think as a foot model, besides the stigma? I know the stigma is always going to be a con because you have to have that open conversation with somebody. Because being a porn star is okay, but being a foot model isn't okay. Let's just,
nope.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna be real. I can take 8 dicks at a time. That's my job. That's how I get paid. But I'm a foot model, and I just do pictures or I send somebody my socks, and that's wrong. I said it. But I just want to know, like, some pros and cons you feel you've seen or you've heard from other models that is really going to help somebody if they're trying to make the decision, I want to help break the stigma. I want to get into this. What are some pros and cons they need to be aware about?
A con would be whether you want your family to know or not about it. And if it is something you're trying to normalize, then yeah, I would give them a heads up, especially if you're using the same cell phone you use every day on your personal Instagram. It's going to pop up that you just created another account. So there's a con there. If you don't want people to know, use an iPad or something, a computer that's not linked to your personal account. Another con would be you have to have thick skin. There are some people that say some pretty nasty stuff sometimes, very offensive, and you just have to literally block the person and then block them out of your mind because there's no point in like trying to even understand why they would come out of left field the way they are with you. Just have some thick skin. You're gonna need it. Some pros is you get to meet some amazing people. Not just models, you get to meet amazing people within the community. There are genuinely nice people out there, and they just get a bad rap because they like feet, which is horrible. It's just like you can't judge someone based off of their preferences. That is truly harmless. Some other pros would be you really get to discover another side to yourself. You are truly reinventing yourself, honestly, because you're looking at your feet now as like you cherish them, you love them, you want to take care of them. You come to kind of obsess over your own feet, not in like a bad way, but like you become obsessed with your own feet, which is cool.
Which is good because women should be obsessed with themselves anyway. I don't care who you are. Caveat. Yes. Sorry.
Most definitely. There was always people like, gosh, you're so, what's that word? Conceited. I'm like, I'm not conceited. I'm just confident. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know what happened to where everyone is just conceited and full of themselves. Like you should be. And that's okay.
I've noticed that like when a woman is trying to be assertive, she's considered bossy. If she's trying to be confident, she's considered like egotistical. If she's trying to be, confident in herself, well, why are you so obsessed with yourself? You're way out there. Chill it down. It's just like, no, I'm going to be the best version of me. F you.
Exactly. Be unapologetically yourself. And that's another pro that I've learned. I am just being myself, and I could give two shits about what anyone else thinks about me now. Family, friends, a random stranger. I don't care anymore. It's okay. If you don't like me, if you don't it's okay. I'm not for you. I'm not that person that needs to be in your life. So, you'll learn who is in your life for good and who doesn't need to be in your life at all. You guys, I've had to cut family members out of my life. I told my parents what I'm doing. I told my sister and my brother-in-law. They're the only ones that I really care about in this world, that I just wanted to let them know. And guess what? They love it. They're like, that's amazing. You go do what you want to do. There's not a lot of people that have support like that. So I value that. I don't value people sliding into my personal Instagram DMs on my family saying, do you have an OF? Do you have this and that? I'm like, are you genuinely asking because you care? Are you just being nosy?
Yeah.
There will be people like that. Yeah, I'm like, y'all are just nosy, huh?
It's so hard if you want to have an OnlyFans, a Fansly, a this, a that, because if you're doing it for yourself, I know somebody who did it just because she wanted to build up her confidence. She just started taking pictures of herself, and she would send it to one friend. That one friend turned into 2 friends. That 2 friends turned into 15 friends, and now she's blowing up on OnlyFans. And she got so much hatred from some people in her family, and they're calling her a whore, they're calling her this, they're calling her that, and just like, she found her confidence doing this. She loves herself. She advocates for people. She started a nonprofit for teenagers to learn how to love your body while you're just figuring out how to be a little girl, how to become a woman, in that in between stage that's just awkward because you hate yourself.
Yeah.
So she's doing all this amazing stuff because of it. And she gets so much backlash. Like, she had an aunt at a family reunion who basically told her that she should just go kill herself because the devil's coming for her.
That's, the type of person you don't need in your life. So
exactly.
I'd be like, thank you for making this so much more clear. What? I don't need you in my life.
Like, okay, thank you for your unneeded awkward response.
I feel like it's important for more people to feel okay. I don't care what you're into, so long as you're not hurting kids, you're not hurting somebody else, you're not doing anything illegal. If you're just being who you are, loving what you do, I don't give a damn. It's none of my business. You're not affecting me. That's my biggest thing. You're not affecting me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not out here like, you're not coming up to me like, bro, let me suck them toes. And if you are, that's still okay. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. But like, it's the same thing as a guy coming up to you at the bar, grabbing your ass and be like, hey, babe, you want to come home with me? Like, it's the same conversation. Like, if I'm not into you, I'm going to be like, pass. But I'm going to still take it as like a confidence booster of, hey, he noticed me. My ass must be looking fabulous. You know what I mean?
That.
I'm not gonna lie, the way the world is, I do feel like having a foot fetish is illegal sometimes. I feel like I'm driving home sometimes, and like, am I just gonna get whoop whoop pulled over?
Hey, let's see what you got.
We heard you got a foot fetish.
Bro,
we're gonna need to bring you in.
I bail you out.
Oh,
you pay me back
man.
though. But I bail you out.
Yeah,
I'd be laughing with them.
Yeah, like that's an interesting charge to have. No, a little funny story. Back when I was in high school, this was when laptops still had that full battery pack. Little age tidbit there. So a buddy of mine, I was getting a job, so I got my own new laptop. So I was like, I don't need this laptop anymore. And I thought I had done a pretty good wipe. I, however, did not. And I should have known, because everyone used to tease that, he was like my apprentice. Like, I taught him a lot of stuff. So he took after me in a lot of things, including being very thorough. So I gave him the laptop, didn't think anything of it. And he was like, he comes to me and he's like, hey, I'm like, yeah, what's up, bro? He's like, so you got a foot fetish, huh? I was like, did he just like CIA me? Like, bro, he was like, no. He was like, you cleaned everything else except the browser history. I was
you could have done
the most basic of
And
things.
I know you. You are
I
way better than that
forgot.
90% of the time, bro.
But you know the thing, I became way better after that incident. That's why I became better. But you know, at the same time, among my friends, usually mainly the guys, like we're usually all just super chill. Like, you know, yeah, they jab at me about it, and for the most part, I do have to thank them. Yes, even you, even though I know you don't take thanks. Because it did help bring me out of my shell about it. Like, especially Yuli. Yuli actually did the biggest shotgun shot to me on a live stream because he knew Yuli knew that I was always combatant about it. So I usually just stay hushed. Like, I don't talk about myself, and everyone's always like wanting to know things. And I'm like, I'm a pretty normal person. There's not much to know, which makes people want to know. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing to say. There's really nothing to say. I'm not putting on a mask here, but that was like my biggest thing. And people are always trying to like, oh, what's he into? What's he into? And I was like, you know what? I'll just have a stream where people can ask me questions and I'll answer them. I didn't expect anyone to even aim in that direction. And Yuli comes in. He was just like, why do you like toes?
Yes.
And I was just like,
I was genuinely curious. It's
The
not.
stream is over.
well, and it was like silence, but everyone was still watching. The number didn't drop. I think
Now we
everyone
get
was
the
just
history. Now we get
waiting.
the story. What is it? What is it?
They were just waiting, and I was like, well, yep. And so I was just like, well, it's out there. The community knows. And it's funny because they've come in and they've given me the little nickname I've been trying for the longest to shake. Itochi. And I'm like, and I haven't been able to shake it. And I'm just like, you know what? Now I accept it. But you know what? I know they do it in love. Because they come back and they hang out. And it's like this, it shows like nothing has changed. It's like my content hasn't changed. Who I am hasn't changed. It's just a part of me that
Definitely,
you know,
it adds to
and
a little
in
bit
its
of
own
your
way adds
character,
to it.
honestly.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of the community,
Absolutely.
male and female, because
You guys, I've always had an
there are
obsession
females
with
that
the
are
way
into
feet
it.
smell.
So
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
like smelly feet. Or wait, do you?
Yeah, like
Wait, which one are you?
really,
I
Smelly
like
or not
smelly
smelly?
I like smelly feet. My feet do smell because I sweat. Like, for some reason, my
The smell
hands
good or
get
the
sweaty. My
smelly?
feet get clammy and sweaty. So I have smelly feet if I'm wearing socks and shoes. But I would say, yeah.
to be fair, that's me too. I'm not even. That's what I'm like. Usually, that part of the
Is it
the
natural
thing
just to
doesn't
like
even
your own
like
smell?
come to people's
I
minds.
remember
They're just like,
after
oh, look,
football
and it's like,
practice, I'll take off my
you
socks.
know,
and be
there's
like,
the
oh, that's a good one.
I think that's natural. Yeah.
Yes, it's just a natural thing.
I don't know why I just picture Yuli knocking himself out. Like, team comes in. What's wrong with him? He's just.
Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody, and like, they don't notice when they have the scent of their own BO because they like the scent. So to them, it's not like an off put. And because, you know, some people, it depends on how your body is, how your oils work, everything else like that. It's a whole convoluted thing. But I never thought of it like as in depth as that, because that makes sense. Like, sometimes, you know, it's just because you're used to it, maybe. So you like the scent, and because that's comfortable to you. Does that make sense?
I think it goes back to just our baser instincts as humans. I mean, think about before perfumes and colognes and all of that was a thing.
That's a good point.
All
but
we
we
had
have
was the
been
natural
using, like, berries
pheromones
and flowers
we
to
put
change
out.
the scent. Like, they used to make soaps out of, like, animal fat.
Yeah.
Just
Would it be to change the
clean.
scent or elevate the scent?
I don't know.
Like, you
Did
got
know
this
that the Vikings are
mustiness.
actually the cleanest people too?
Was before or after the pillage?
No, that's the funny part. Like, they would take like weekly ritual baths, and that's actually why there was a bunch of cultures didn't like the Vikings, because they didn't like that they spent so much time cleaning up. It's this weird thing. I was reading a whole article on about it. I don't know how I found the article, to be fair, but it's a whole.
I'm just picturing like a Viking slashing someone in the neck. It's like, damn, he got me in the neck, but damn, does he smell good?
He doesn't smell repugnant. What a wonderful aroma. I know, right?
That almost undoes everything I've
men,
seen about
the
Vikings in a way.
Yeah.
But no, I'm with you on that, Momma Goodz. I'm the same way. Like, some of my exes, when they would come in from work and they kick off their shoes, I wouldn't make it obvious, but I'd be like,
smells like success. That's a good one.
I used to work at a bank, and I would always wear knee-high nylons with my heels, with my flats, and I would come home, and I lived with my sister, her husband, and my nieces, and they'd be like, "Uh-oh, Eric is home, and she took off her flats. It smells like corn chips in the house." I'm like, "My bad, guys. My bad. I'll go wash them."
No, there's something appealing. I get, everyone's different. Everyone has their own preference in the category, and you could literally have a whole podcast on all the different aspects. But for me, it's just, there's something appealing about it because it's like, it's you natural. It's you natural. And that's literally half the charm. It's like you in your most natural moment, because social media and standards always has the ladies at their pinnacle. You always got to be in makeup, and you always got to be smelling like flowers, and it's like you like.
No, I remember there was a whole
jokes
conversation
of like,
about
do
that.
ladies even fart?
Oh my god!
Like, And it's funny, you know what? I always laugh because I actually made one of my exes fart one time, and she was embarrassed, and I was like, to me, it was the most hilarious thing, because I was like, "You solved the riddle. It's no longer a question." And she was like, "That does." I was like, "It's natural. You always have to go out there every single day and be your best. You always got to be." You got to look your best, smell your best, speak your best.
Did not.
When you come home,
yeah, that's the time to really just be yourself.
That's what That's what
not
I
all
hope
the
for,
time.
like,
Then at that time, yes. Yep, corn chips.
Yeah, corn chips and all. So before we wrap up the episode, it's an amazing conversation. I'm really glad to have it. I've never been able to have like a panel conversation
I'm happy I could
like this
be here for y'all.
So in a way, as and thank you, and a huge thank you to Daddy Goodz for connecting us. He will be joining us. Yeah. In the future. We are just going to be rescheduling. He's out there being a working man right now. So thank you, Daddy Goodz, for the connection. Really appreciate it. So guys, make sure you check out the Plenty of Feet podcast and Momma Goodz. Please give
y'all can find me on Instagram at Momma Goodz, MommaGoodz, and the same for Twitter, same handle. Yep. And then on YouTube, we're just on there as Plenty of Feet podcast. That's where you can find me. I don't have any other podcasts. That's it.
It's really easy it's hard to forget. It literally rolls off the tongue. Right? POF.
I'm actually kind of glad.
Like, I didn't even think Plenty of Fish anymore. I literally think POF, Plenty of Feet. That's perfect.
I've never used it, but all I've heard is horror stories.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe you guys can just. Oh, man. Horrible. Don't do it. But anyway, everybody who's been tuning in, if you were watching this live, or if you're hearing this in the future, thank you guys so much. If you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/ OSN Media, where you can catch all of our podcasts from Jeezy Chop Shop, Gunpowder Red, and Afterthoughts After Dark. And leave your comments. This was a really amazing conversation. So we would love to hear from you guys. What are your guys' takes on it? How you guys feel about it? Hopefully we opened up your minds. Let a lot of you feel comfortable. So hit us up on our social media as well. You can actually go to the Twitter, even if it's because I know we got to make one for the Afterthought After Darks, but you can hit us up on the GC Chop Shop. We'll know. So let us know. And you guys have been amazing. Stay safe out there.